These are 10 tips to speed up your music video editing workflow. We're gonna start off with number 1, using references. Often I'm sending footage from a client, they just tell me do whatever. For the most part, they just go along with whatever I come up with. However, I have made it a practice to ask the client if there's any music videos they've seen recently or any kind of ideas they have before starting the project. If they have no ideas or any videos they've seen in the past, I usually direct them to like iCandy or Frame Deck to get any type of ideas for a look or a feel or type of effects and transition they want to use in their video. Doing this can also save you time and revisions, which by the way, I usually only allow for 1 revision without charging anything extra. You don't want to spend too much time on one project, especially if you have multiple clients that you're working with. You want to try to get the project done, move on to your next client so no one's waiting too long. Another good point of reference too is Pinterest. If you go to Pinterest and type in music video effects or music video ideas, there's a lot of posts there you can kind of go through for inspiration. I'll leave a link for iCandy, Frame Deck, and Pinterest in the description below. Number 2 is use a template. Before you even get into the actual project, you want to have at least like the bare bone structure of the project before you get started. In the description, you'll find a link to my Discord. If you go to the tab that says workflow, you can download a bin file for either like editing workflow or music video workflow. If you're new to Resolve and you've never seen a bin file, you basically just double click on it and it will basically recreate whatever bin structure that was created during the file initial creation. So here I have the file here, you double click, I move this back to the side, give it a second to load, then it brings the bins. Bins are just another word for folders. You click on music video, you have your A-roll folder, B-roll, branding. Branding is a folder I threw in for if a client has like a logo or a sound tag, something like that they want to identify with all their projects, you can put it there. Sound effects, drones, overlay, and timelines. Overlays is basically kind of like your film grain overlays or film mats and things like that you may have. Now these folders are all empty except for the timeline folder. I have a main timeline and a demo timeline, which is still bare bone. If you double click the activator, you have your A-roll, B-roll, main track, and sound effects. For the sound effects track list, you can go through and activate stuff like ducking, or you can add different audio effects from Fairlight onto that track. And then when you export the bin back out, all those effects will still be applied. So if I go through and I put in different overlays I use all the time, maybe some B-roll that I use or all the time, like I say, branding, you can actually set these up for per client. If you have a bunch of different clients, you can export it with their name, and then you know exactly, okay, well, I'm working for Joe Blow. Let me get the Joe Blow file open up. That way I have all this branding information. Once you're done, you go to the file name, right click, and you go to export bin. Then you just export to anywhere on your desktop. This here's my editing workflow. This is what I use for all my YouTube videos. Click on editing. If I go into B-roll, I already have some B-roll there, going along with my logo. And then I also have some adjustment clips with some presets I already added to them. Have my sound effects. A-roll is usually empty until I get done recording the video. And I have my different timelines. If I click on the main timeline, you see here I have it set up to voice, sound effects, music, background music, A-roll, B-roll, text, adjustment clips. So all this stuff is already preset. If I go to my voice track, go to the inspector tab, I have all the different effects and all the different settings are already applied. Speeds up my workflow a hell of a lot. Number 3 is edit in passes. Basically what that means is don't try to do everything all at once. If you're editing a music video, you want to synchronize your audio and then you want to cut up the footage or do your initial cuts, and then you want to add your B-roll and then add your transitions and add your effects, things like that. You want to do everything in layers, whereas when I first started out with music videos, I would try to get the different scenes, cut them up, and then I'll try to, as I go through the timeline, I will add the effects and transitions and this, that, and the third. It took me forever to edit a video. You want to edit in passes, doing one thing at a time. My next tip I actually just did a video for in how to synchronize audio. I'll leave a link up here for. It's basically just using the multicam function to actually synchronize your audio. This is something that's situation based. So if you're sent footage from a client and they didn't actually separate the footage between performance shots, A-roll, B-roll, drone, all that stuff, this is a quick way to separate the audio. It's something simple to do. Just make sure you select all your footage along with the actual master audio track with the actual song itself. Then from the media pool, you'll right click and then select create new multicam clip. For angle sync, you want to change that to sound, and then make sure move source clips to original clips bin is checked. So then no matter how many clips you have, it will sort through all of them, synchronize the audio with the video, and then move that to a separate folder by itself. And that folder, of course, would be original clips. Then, of course, you can move it to your A-roll bin or however you want to do it. The next 3 tips all pertain to color grading. First up, power grades. If you have footage or a client that you edit for on a regular basis, you want to basically set up those color grading nodes, how you use for those particular projects. And then you want to create a power bin, which if you've been using DaVinci Resolve for a while, you might know about it already. Over to the left, you have stills, power grades, and timeline. Click on power grades, and then whatever power grade you created, basically with all your different node tree, which also on my Discord in the workflow tab, it has a node tree there you can download as well for free. Once you set up your node tree, ideally you just have like the base bare bones, maybe a color space transform, and then basically have your nodes labeled. You can then right click and grab a steel. It will place it in your power grade. And just like a power bin, that power grade will be available in any project on that particular project library. Which if I go down here to the home button and open up, these are your different libraries. So if I switch libraries, that power bin won't be available. Next up is color management. Now my typical node tree usually has what I call a color space transform sandwich. So I have a color space transform here and also towards the end of the node tree. Before like a default power grade, this first one usually just uses timeline, but it's always going to convert it to DaVinci Wide Gamut and DaVinci Intermediate. And then the one on the back end will always convert your footage back from DaVinci Wide Gamut Intermediate to Rec 709 and Gamma 2.4. So anytime I use this power grade, which to apply power grade, if I select all this and hit backspace, delete it, I go over to my power grade, just grab the image and then just bring it over to the node flow, and it'll just repopulate those nodes. Then say for instance, if this was Sony footage, I would just click on the color space transform and then change this to Sony. And something I've been using here recently actually eliminates those few steps. If I go down here to the cogwheel, then go to color management. I'm not sure if it's default, but I know usually it says DaVinci YRGB. I hit the drop down and change this to DaVinci YRGB color manage, and then uncheck automatic color management. On the color processing mode, I can change this to DaVinci Intermediate. Well, actually, is HDR DaVinci Wide Gamut Intermediate. So essentially, this is doing the exact same thing the color space transform was doing. So then if I hit save, if I go into this footage here, which is Sony log footage, and right click, you'll have a new option available that says input color space transform, or input color space. Basically, you just got to go through and indicate and tell DaVinci, hey, this footage is so-and-so, so-and-so. So you do need to know how it was shot if you shot log. So input color space, then I just go to Sony. Then I select Sony Gamut 3, Cine, S-Log 3. So now is that footage in the correct log space, or correct color space, I'm sorry, but it's also been converted to DaVinci Wide Gamut Intermediate, which means I have wide more range to manipulate the colors. So then if I bring it to my timeline, go to the color page, I can still apply this same power grade, but then I can just get rid of this color space transform at the beginning and the end. And since I already converted to Rec 709, then I can just go through and manipulate the colors, the contrast, saturation, all this stuff. Just cut down on some steps, especially if you have a lot of footage from different cameras. And so instead of trying to convert the color space transform here within the node tree from the Canon to Panasonic to Red, so on and so forth, you can just separate those footage by the camera, then go through and select them all. So now this is our Sony footage, but I can select all this footage. So say for instance, this is all Canon footage. I can right click, go to input color space, and then tell it, hey, this is all Canon S-Log 3, and it will convert it all to S-Log 3. I can do the same thing for my Sony, my Red, my Panasonic, and then I can just have this one node tree for everything. Next tip is grouping your footage. So right now I'm in the color page. This is footage from my last tutorial, and you see I have different clips of myself scattered throughout the timeline. Since the lighting conditions, everything are relatively the same throughout the whole video, I want to apply the color grade one time to everything. So I can actually go up here to clips, and then go to common media source, or common media pool source. And it will automatically go through and find every clip that's from that particular footage. And I can group it together by just clicking one, hitting Control A or Command A if you're on Mac, right clicking, and then go into add to new group. So add to new group. This is actually my second time shooting this video, so this is gonna be group 2. So I'm just gonna hit OK. Then if I go to the drop down menu on the clips, go to grouped. Go to group 2, it's gonna show all my clips from group 2. With the clips being grouped, you can go up here now, you have 4 different tabs. You got pre-clip, you have clip, post-clip, and then you have timeline. Timeline is basically the color grade you want to apply to the whole timeline, which I never use because you always have different footage on the timeline. Typically with post-clip and pre-clip, you pretty much want to use like your color space transform there. So you'll put your color space transform, identifying what the footage is, converting to DaVinci Wide Gamut or whatever color space you want to convert it to. You do the same thing in the post clip, converting it from DaVinci Wide Gamut or wherever color space to Rec 709. Combining this with the color management tip I just went over, you can use that pre-clip to color grade all your clips at the same time. So I got one clip here. I'm in the post group tab, and say for instance, I just turn this to blue. Everything is going to get turned blue. So instead of me having to go through and actually physically apply the grade to all my different clips, I can color grade it this way. I can still use my power grades, and that's going to affect every clip. Now, if you get to one particular clip where the footage, perhaps maybe the lighting conditions changed or something happened to where that color grade won't really work for everything, you can still change it. For whatever clip you need to work on, just go to the clip level and then you can go in and make alterations. They'll only affect that one clip. Now, all these clips here, this is the only one that's been affected by it. This helps a lot with music video editing because you might have one shot. It's probably cut up like 30 some different times throughout the whole video. Instead of having to go through and nitpick each one of those shots, you can apply the color grade once. My next tip is know your shortcuts. You go up here to DaVinci, click on keyboard customization. You can go through and actually learn the shortcuts and commit them to memory yourself. However, the shortcuts that come default with DaVinci are not really conducive of speeding up your workflow. Typically, you want to try to remap some of the keyboard shortcuts to the left-hand side of the keyboard. That way your right hand's on your mouse, your left hand's on the keyboard, and you're constantly working at all times. Not to mention that some of the default keyboard shortcuts with DaVinci requires like 2 to 3 different inputs, and it basically takes your hands off the mouse so you can hit it all 3 keys. Something as simple as ripple delete from playhead requires like 3 inputs by default. I remap mine to F2 and F3. So my playhead here, I want to cut this part of the clip, and I want to just close that gap. All I gotta do is hit F3. And it does it for me. Same thing with the other direction. The clip selected, I can hit F2, and it just cut everything from the playhead to the beginning of that clip. So setting up your own custom keyboard shortcuts will save you a lot of time. Speaking of saving time, my next tip is save your effects. So here I have one of the pre-animated texts I have for my latest pack, my Lyric Motion pack. Now, if I right-click and ungroup this, you see there's a bunch of nodes there. So if you go through and watch one of my Fusion tutorials or any other tutorials, and you go through and make this a whole big elaborate node flow, you don't want to try to recreate that every time you want to use that effect. So one of the easy ways of saving an effect without actually making an actual preset for the edit page would be just to hit Control A or Command A if you're on Mac. I'm gonna hold Control and unselect media out, which if you're on Mac, you'll hold Command to do that. And this is a text effect, so there is no media in. But if you had a media in, you will unselect it as well. Then you just right click on one of the nodes in the flow, go to create macro, or go to macro, then select create macro. And you'll get this menu here. This menu is very important if you want to make an editing preset for the edit page, but we're not gonna get into it right now. Just gonna go up here to, actually I'm gonna give it a name right here. I'm just calling it demo. And then I'm gonna go to file, save as a group. Now the default folder path that comes up, that's the one you wanna use. Just gonna hit save. And basically what it's gonna do is create a group of those nodes and save them to your selected tools. So if I close this out and if I hit Control A, unselect the media out and delete everything there, I can bring those nodes back by hitting Control Space, type in demo, hit enter. It's gonna bring back that group. Then just ungroup it to bring back those nodes. Then I just reconnect this last output back to the media out, and boom, all my nodes are there. All the settings I created or changed are there, and I can reuse this as many times as I want to. This here is a bonus suggestion, but don't be afraid to use presets, and particularly presets you'll find in my editing packs and my website. And everything is still buy one, get one free, which means if you add up to 6 editing packs, out of those 6, 3 of them will be free. I'm also having my biggest deal of the year where you get my all-in-one bundle for 60% off. The all-in-one bundle has every editing pack I have released, and you will get every editing pack I will release in the future for the one low price. Like I said, it's 60% off. You'll find a link in the description. This last tip is kind of a contradiction a little bit, but it's never to submit your first draft. Of course, you want to be able to get through the edit as fast as possible. You also want it to be good. But if you run through the editing process and submit that first draft, most likely the client's going to come back and be like, hey, bang, 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 change this, that, and the third, blah, 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 blah. If you got done editing and then went back and kind of revised it yourself, most likely your client will have less to say. Therefore, taking that little extra bit of time might cut out any revisions you might need at all and leave you with a happy client. Do me a favor, if you found anything helpful in this video, make sure you smash that YouTube like button. It goes a long way into supporting the channel. Much appreciated, and I'll see you in the next video.